Hi, this is Daniel, and you're watching Unrivaled Investing. Today, I'm very excited to talk to you about Amwell. The ticker is AMWL, otherwise known as American Well Corp. It's a new IPO. It started publicly trading September 17th, 2020. And the question is this the next revolutionary company, the company that's going to change healthcare for millions of Americans? Or is it an overhyped IPO, the type of thing where it's like, yeah, promising a lot, but you're just not going to deliver. Is it that type of IPO that you buy in and you're going to tell your great grandkids, oh yeah, I bought this at $28 a share and it went to a zillion, making our family rich? Or is it the type of company where, eh, just fizzles out over time? These are the types of things that you should be asking yourself as we go into this video because we are going to cover Amwell in this. What is Amwell? Once again, ticker AMWL. What's their business model? How did they make money? Because look, this channel is about fundamentals, understanding what drives a business, what should drive its share price higher or lower. What's their value proposition? I look at all investments through the lens of an unrivaled value proposition. If you have a good or service where you're unrivaled, you're going to stand out over time, you're going to win. If you're not unrivaled, hey, you're just like everybody else. You don't deserve to win. That's just the reality. And then what's the opportunity? Do they have 10x potential? I am hunting for the big game, baby. I want big winners in my investment portfolio. So I'm not looking for little day trades, little swing trades. I'm looking for things with 10x potential. Does this meet that criteria? Lastly, my thoughts on valuation, where I give you, my loyal YouTube subscribers, a free investment calculator for you around for you to play with. It's free. You can look at it at the end of this video. But before digging in, if you like to learn about multi-baggers, the types of companies that could potentially go up hundreds or even thousands of percent, make sure you've already subscribed to this channel. If you're already a subscriber, hit that thumbs up button. And if you want to know what I'm personally doing in my personal investment portfolio, go to unrivaledinvesting.com, click on that journey button. And the reality is, and this is spoken straight from the heart. Like, I truly, in my heart of hearts, believe this, is that it only takes one multi-bagger to potentially change your life. It'll change your potential life journey if you find a few multi-baggers. And so if that's what you're interested in, potentially changing your life journey by finding these types of companies, go to unrivaledinvesting.com to follow my journey as I'm trying to find these multi-baggers for myself, if you'd like. Also, I love it when you post, say, hey, this video was super informative. I learned a lot. Here's the next amazing company I want you to look at. I think they have an unrivaled value proposition. Here's why. I will dig into it. And I am slowly, one by one, I'm doing it. Some people think it's going to take years. I'm going to do this in a couple of weeks. That's the plan. Let's knock this out. Now, the truth is, I do have a little backlog of companies to look at, but I love it, and I love the requests. So let's keep going. So let's dig in. This is one of the popular requests, Amwell. So Amwell stands for American Wel Corp, which actually seems like it's really poorly named, or they just haven't adapted because they're eventually going to focus on international. So I would quickly just switch to like Well Corp or something, or Well Care. So what do they do? What does Amwell do? And they enable telehealth for the existing healthcare industry. Um, this is not a revolution. As I go through this, it's going to be very apparent that they are not causing a revolution in the healthcare industry. What they are doing is they're trying to attempt to enable a lot of different things around telehealth, enabling all the different players in the ecosystem to have, participate in telehealth. So you say you want a revolution. I'm not so sure that this is the play for you if that's the case. I don't think Amwell's the play for you. I joked earlier a minute ago when I said WellCare. That's actually a company that I had a little bit of a ride with that I can share with Journey subscribers at another date. So what exactly do you do here, Amwell? Like helping with telehealth? So what Amwell does, there's a lot of different pieces to it. Let's do segment by segment. The first one is Amwell Health Plans, where they're enabling the health plans of the United States or potentially the world. Think insurance companies when I'm saying health plans, to offer their own telehealth app or functionality within their existing system. So One of Amwell's largest customers, this is their largest customers, is Anthem. Anthem is not only a shareholder of Amwell, which makes things a little complicated. But they're also the largest insurer in the United States. So the fact that Amwell has a relationship here is important. Like this means like, hey, we are providing a solution for the largest insurance company in the United States. Like this must be a satisfactory solution if the largest insurance company has adopted it. So that should be understood. Like versus that gives you bragging rights when you're trying to win new business. The other aspect to understand is this is all about white labeling. White labeling means you build the solution, your customer will slap their logo on it. So no one's that using Anthem really cares about Amwell. They're really focused on this live health or live health online, and you know that's that's through Anthem. It's the Anthem label. That's what people are focusing on. So if Anthem is like, hey, we want to make it available for anyone with Anthem related insurance, like Blue Cross, Blue Shield, to be able to communicate, have set up a telehealth appointment with a doctor, they can do it through the app within whatever portal they're currently using. And so that's this live health online. Um, that's what they've enabled for the insurance company. So you have a sort of an understanding of it. You can see here's an example of this live health online where someone opens the app, it says free to sign up, no monthly fees, and this makes sense. They're making it, they're trying to enable telehealth no matter which part of the ecosystem you are. If you're a health insurance plan, you can offer it to any of your customers. And so in this case, here's this customer and they pull it up and they can see the range of physicians. Oh, this physician's got 5 stars for internal medicine, family physician. And you can visit with the doctor 24/7. That's the value of telehealth. A lot of people already understand the value is that you don't have to wait in a long line, you don't have to commute. Go to a wait at a doctor's office and potentially expose yourself to a bunch of different things. You can do it all on, do it over the phone, do it over an iPad, and it's a game changer. So let me understand like what's the value proposition for the health plan perspective. And first, it's access to telehealth without building it themselves. So Anthem doesn't have to build this app or any other insurance company that wants to partner with Amwell. They don't have to build their own app to start offering telehealth services. So that's a big deal. They can just slap on their own logo and now you have an app that's powered by Amwell. The second aspect is you can lower costs for the insurance company. The insurance company's like, look, it, the unfortunate state of medicine and healthcare in the United States is it's run by a bunch of for-profits where it's and maybe that in and of itself isn't the problem. I'm not sure. What I do know is that there are just too many competing parties looking to make a profit. When you have too many parties competing to make a profit, then everyone's making a profit, and who's getting screwed? But the end user. And the end user doesn't have any transparency. Even though there are some companies that are starting to revolutionize pricing transparency. I did a video on one recently. Um, and so, here what they're trying to do is they're lowering the cost. This is what Amwell is doing. They're lowering the cost for the health insurance plan because the customers of these insurance plans, if you're insured, they're going to say, "Oh yeah, if you logged into our telehealth and you want to see a doctor, we're only going to refer you to doctors that are in our network. So we can make sure we're keeping our costs down. And oh, maybe we refer you only to the doctors that are more affordable. Like, hey, these two are both in network, but this one charges less. This one's part of a practice that actually charges less. Maybe the ratings doesn't really matter. So let's put them over there, and we're going to make sure this Doctor A, that charges a little bit less. They're going to be the ones getting the visit. So that's one way to manage your costs. Another is the fact that with the app, with the ability to get telehealth access, like the reality is it's going to prevent people from going to see a doctor maybe unnecessarily, or if they were worried about something, having to go to urgent care or an ER. And they've done a study here, and everyone's going to be able to point to their own statistics, but here it is. They're saying 6% of members reported that they would have gone to the emergency room, while 42% said urgent care and 33% said to a physician's office. So effectively saying Like in a certain scenario, patients reported they would have used the following if not telehealth. And the relative cost of telehealth versus these other solutions, it's on average a delta of somewhere between $200 and $400. That's what they're saying. So it's a huge cost saver for the insurance plan. So it makes sense. And if you think, these are a bunch of profit optimizing organizations, then of course they're going to be pushing telehealth in the future because it enhances their margins. They're going to be able to direct, oh, don't go to this doctor, you want to go to that one. So it makes sense. Like they're offering attractive savings and attractive economics for insurance plans, which are for generally, many of them are for profit companies. Like Anthem is a publicly traded company. ANTM, I believe, is the ticker. ANTM. And billions of dollars in premiums, billions of dollars of profits. And you get, for the cost of a subscription, you're subscribing to Amwell's business, and for that cost of the subscription, you get this unit economics. So it probably pays off, probably a high ROI for them. So I'm just sort of penciling out like what's the value proposition. So from this health plan perspective, like I see this as a very strong value proposition for the health insurer. Does it necessarily resonate with the person that needs care, the end customer? Maybe. Like maybe they're getting the telehealth they need. Maybe they still need to go get a lab done, and you can't do that via telehealth at this point. So there's trade-offs. So I'm not sure it's an unrivaled value proposition for the whole ecosystem. That's just the start of what Amwell does. As I've said before, there's a lot of different pieces here. Let's keep going. So that's health plans. Then you also have health systems. Now this is interesting because Amwell enables systems. Now, when you think systems, that's not insurance. That's like a network of doctors and nurses, or physicians, doctors, and nurses, to easily connect to patients via telehealth. So, previously doctors are like, hey, I'd like to be able to do a video chat with you. What's a secure way of doing it? Amwell's got you covered. And so they have a solution where it's like, yeah, you can log in through this portal. Once again, white label. It's all developed by Amwell, but we're gonna put our own sticker on it, and you're going through our portal for your telehealth, for your video conferencing. And their case study that they like to call out is with Cleveland Clinic, where Cleveland Clinic several years back sought a solution. This is exactly from the S1 filing. Sought a solution to mobilize and further monetize its 4,520 salaried physicians and 17,000 registered nurses without significant additional investment. Let me break this down English, like plain English. Hey, Cleveland Clinic wanted to make more money, and they had a lot of expenses. They had several thousand mouths to feed. And they're thinking, we can either hire more people, but that's going to be more expensive because you got more mouths to feed. And we'd like to make more money. So how are we going to do that without hiring more people or building out more offices? What do we need to do here? So what's the solution to mobilize and further monetize its huge tens of thousands of workforce, 17,000 registered nurses, 4,500 salaried physicians? What's the solution? The solution is telehealth, working with Amwell, where they make their services accessible to anyone in the world. And since then, since 2014, virtual visits grew so much, it put a strain on the rest of their business, their existing business. So they had to moderate, like, oh, wow, this is actually growing so fast. Their virtual visits in 2018 were up 68% alone. So they had to rely on Amwell Medical Group. That's the third component I'm going to talk to you about in just 1 second. But let me actually cover something else. So they successfully mobilized and monetized their fleet of doctors and nurses. But see, this is where it starts getting really interesting. Cleveland Clinic is no ordinary hospital. It's one of the top-ranked hospitals in the world. They are number 1, for example, in the United States for cardiology. And they're ranked really highly in several other specialties. So they are a top dog when it comes to medical care in the United States. So then they said, is there a way that using telehealth, we can actually make even more money beyond just doing regular doctor's appointments, regular telehealth. Is there something else that we can do that really juices it? And that's where they came up with this your first choice for a second opinion, where they're saying we have all these specialists, some of the best doctors in the world. Wouldn't it be great if anyone in the world that wants to get a second opinion, whether or not you have a gastro problem, a urology problem, a cardio problem, maybe you should second guess your doctor. And you know what? Doctors make mistakes. So maybe it makes sense to ask the best one in the world or one of the top ones in the world. This is Cleveland Clinic. So you go to My Consult, which is powered by Amwell, but that's Cleveland Clinic's take saying, hey, your first choice for a second opinion. Now, this is where it gets interesting because the price here, this is like they're effectively making it easier for the wealthy of the world to get second opinions because the price is like a minimum of $800 per telehealth appointment. And look, $800, like the doctor's going to get a nice cut of it because they're super premium. They're the best of the best. But Amwell should get a cut, or at least Cleveland Clinic's going to make a lot. So you can see why this creates a rich value proposition for some of the customers. For does this democratize healthcare and make it more affordable? No. But does it make it better for the ultra wealthy that can drop $800, like that because they want to get a second opinion? Yeah. If let's say you have an unfortunate outcome with a family member, someone's diagnosed with cancer and it's terrible. Maybe in that scenario you want to make sure you're going through the right treatment course. You do want to get a second opinion. This is high stakes. Maybe you do splurge for that $800. So I can see the value proposition. Let's keep going. So what I touched upon a minute ago, how they were growing so fast with virtual visits that they had to rely on Amwell Medical Group. What was that? What is Amwell Medical Group? Well, Amwell Medical Group is Amwell's own network of 5,000 physicians, nurses covering 50 states, so pretty much the United States, 24/7. So where this is interesting is Amwell Medical Group is effectively backup, or it's your own telehealth services. I'll get into this. So this includes urgent care, behavioral health. It's heavy on the behavioral health, psychologists, psychiatrists. If you go, you can see like what are the open positions, and you can see those are the slots. Lactation counseling, sleep counseling, but it's heavy on family medicine, urgent care, behavioral health, these types of things. So what's the value proposition, for Amwell Medical Group? Well, it's providing surplus capacity for the plans that already have telehealth, and they're like, oh my gosh, we need to have more. Or you're like, hey, there's a middle of the night shift. We don't really have enough docs to handle this. Oh, whenever we're having too many patient visits, we can lean on Amwell. So Amwell becomes like the backup capacity for anyone that has telehealth. If you have weekend, or let's say you're an insurance plan that covers a wide geographic area, well, now you can this and you didn't previously offer telehealth. Boop, you can offer telehealth so you're an insurance plan that hasn't offered telehealth. Now you can do it and be like, oh yeah, we're going to use Amwell Medical Group. They're going to be our telehealth. It's also a white label solution. So once again, Amwell's it's all about enabling others. It's not, getting the main brand there. Where, if a plan has no doctors for telehealth, it's the insurance company can be like, hey, here's our telehealth solution. And the doctors you're going to be speaking to, they weren't doctors that were associated with Amwell. Excuse me, they weren't doctors that were associated with the insurance program. This is the Amwell Medical Group. So it's naturally diverted to the Amwell doctors. So, and you can see Amwell for providers. It's effectively providing surplus capacity for existing systems and existing health plans. So I've covered 3 segments, and this is the vast majority of Amwell's business. There's actually a lot more to go through, but let's recap, because this is, over 80% of their revenue. Let's recap the value proposition for each of these segments, just so we're on the same page. Like, I always need to size up, do you have an unrivaled value proposition? So let's see if we're meeting that criteria. So first for health plans, which is the insurance companies, you have better cost management, i.e. more money, it's easier to implement. You don't have to build out yourself. For the insurance company, I'm thinking it's a solid value proposition because hey, you're making it rain. Boom, more money for the health insurance. I'd imagine it's fairly sticky as well. What about the health systems, the physicians, the providers? Once again, more money because you're getting more visits that are going to the Cleveland Clinic, for example. And it's also like you should also understand the qualitative aspect of better lifestyle. Like some of these physicians now you can work from home. Like that is a net improvement. Also, like a big aspect is increasing the accessibility to the world's best specialists, like I also highlighted with the Cleveland Clinic. So both of these cases, like the increasing accessibility, that is a little bit of a game changer, and that's a good thing. But in terms of the providing a system so that way physicians effectively can have secure Zoom calls and insurance companies can effectively have their own Zoom app. Um, I view it as a strong but not unrivaled value proposition, and it's really driven by money. Like make it rain. Like how do we generate more money? And that's how the current healthcare system works is how do we make more money? And then the third component, which is actually their biggest segment, Amwell Medical Group, it's surplus capacity for the health systems. Like, hey, we they do offer telehealth as a standalone service, but their real value add, I would think, is like, hey, our systems, we need backup for urgent care telehealth. Amwell Medical Group, we're going to be like that's when we really need it, is that midnight shift or when there's just too many patients coming in that week. That's a lot of value. Or we don't have a telehealth solution. Let's create the app. Amwell has the app. Amwell has the team. We can just do that now. Now we have a solution that covers this insurance plan. So a telehealth solution for plans that otherwise don't have one, it doesn't really strike me as an unrivaled value proposition. It strikes me as a strong or a value proposition that's helpful, probably sticky for a while, but I don't see it as something that's like, oh yeah, I'm confident 10, 20 years from now, this will still be the case, or this will still, you know, this is unrivaled. That it just doesn't ring true to me. And also, it's about making broadly, when you're looking at plans and systems, it's about enabling them so that the plans and the systems can make more money, and so that people can get telehealth. So that is a big plus. Like I shouldn't just say it's all about money. Like the end user is able to get telehealth because of Amwell. That is a good thing. Like period. Like people getting telehealth, positive for society. Good thing. So they're making the system better, and I'm excited. But it's not really the revolution the system needs. And that I think that's the part that I'm psychologically getting hung up on, is that the system, and I'm talking about the healthcare system, which is around 20% of GDP for the United States, or one out of $5 in the United States going to the healthcare sort of leech. Is that you need a revolution. You need dramatically lower costs, you need improved outcomes, and you need increased accessibility. And ideally, you look worldwide and you say, hey, how do we increase accessibility worldwide? How do we lower the cost worldwide? So these are tricky questions to ask, effectively saying more care for less and better. Um, this isn't the revolution, but this is enabling a incremental progress with telehealth. Where could they be revolutionary? Where could Amwell be revolutionary? So one thing that's interesting is that Google is actually investing $100 million into Amwell. They're buying about 3% of the shares outstanding with this IPO. And why are they doing it? Well, Amwell, this is from the S1, Amwell will be Google Cloud's global telehealth solution platform partner, i.e., any customers or platforms that go to Amwell. Amwell is going to be like, oh, yes, we're going to set this up for you. It should run through the Google Cloud. And keep in mind, all this telehealth, all these video calls, this is going to, all these streaming calls, this is going to run a lot of data. And so Cleveland Clinic, who's going to be their cloud provider? Well, Amwell is going to be like, oh, yeah, we recommend that we do the business through Google Cloud. And so they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Let's set up your app and have it run through Google Cloud. So it makes sense that Google's making this investment. This is where honestly, like I would expect the hype machines, and you get plenty of hypesters on YouTube of like, oh my gosh, Google's investing in Amwell, like this stock's going to the moon. And like honestly, it's a smart transaction by Google Cloud folks, but it's peanuts. It's, pennies on the dollar for Google. $100 million, it's nothing for them. Like they're making tens of billions of dollars a year. So this is a rounding error from an investment perspective. I take it as not really revolutionary at all. What would be revolutionary would be if Google's saying, "Hey, we're making this investment because we would like to work with Amwell and make sure we have a telehealth solution rolled out in every Google product available on the planet." That would be revolutionary, where they say, yeah, you just talk to your Google Mini or you talk to your Google Nest, and you just say, Google, let's whatever I don't want to say my Google because then it'll be like, yes, Daniel. But you say your Google code word and it pops up, and like all of a sudden you can talk to a doctor 2 minutes later. That would be revolutionary. If you could do that anywhere in the world, that would be amazing. What's another way that Amwell could revolutionize care? And keep in mind, like what I just called out with Google Cloud, I'm not seeing the data points as that's what's going to happen. If they head in that direction, I would get more excited. But that's not what I'm seeing so far. What's another way that they could revolutionize care? Um, well, what's really cool is Amwell actually enabled the Apple Heart Study. So this was conducted by Stanford University. It was the largest clinical trial ever conducted, with 400,000 consumers sharing Apple Watch data to detect atrial fibrillation. So, AKA for the folks that aren't super well informed about heart issues, you start having heart problems, you're wearing a cool Apple Watch, and it detects like, hey, your heart's having a weird pattern. You should go to the ER right now. Like you're about to have a heart attack, you're about to have a stroke. And so what's interesting here is AMG, Amwell's Medical Group, their physicians were effectively the physicians that, hey, when a signal went off, the Amwell physicians were the ones that are like, oh, we need to make sure we notify these patients, like this is legit concerning. You should go to the ER as needed. Like they would be the ones that get the signal and be like, no, that's not a problem. We're like, oh man, go to the ER. So that part I think is really interesting, that Amwell could effectively be that surplus capacity for major studies like this. But does this mean like it would be great if they could make more studies like this available? Like, hey, 400,000 consumers sharing data, that's a big deal. And the fact that Amwell Group could provide this for, let's say, a couple $1,000,000 for Apple, like Apple's happy to do that. They've got hundreds of billions on the balance sheet. So but not really sure. Like this is an example of why would this be an unrivaled value proposition for Amwell Medical Group? Like at the end of the day, if you just have a network of doctors, couldn't another network of doctors with telehealth experience, which all these doctor groups now are getting, couldn't they now compete with that same contract? Like why would Amwell need to have it? It's not so clear to me that's the case. Maybe I'm wrong. What's another way they could revolutionize care? And here's the part where I think it could be really interesting, where they could potentially revolutionize international. And international is just a huge opportunity because there's a shortage of providers worldwide, and there are big global needs. Not to mention, you also want to include the fact that you want more more cases, where people are getting treated. You want faster treatment, better outcomes, lower cost. And so if you could do this via telehealth, that would be huge. And so this is the point where it's starting to get like, oh, this is potentially revolutionary. So you have this HMO Mehudet, which is the third largest HMO in Israel. It became a customer of Amwell in 2019. They're pretty sizable. 1.2 million lives are covered when they launched the first hybrid HMO. Now, this starts raising interesting questions like what happens when you have a telehealth first approach. And I'm not sure it really is a telehealth first, but they say, you know, this telehealth becomes the first line of contact, which reduces the number of visits. So, in this is the part that's like, oh man, if you have a telehealth first approach, could you dramatically lower the cost? Like this gets back to the example of Anthem, where they're saying, hey, we didn't have all these urgent care visits, we didn't have all these ER visits because people did telehealth. But what if telehealth is the first thing that people turn to? And they're saying that 15% of their total care requests were completed or satisfied with virtual or telehealth. So 15% of their total care requests in February 2020. So this was before COVID were virtual versus pretty much nothing in 2017. So this and if you think 15% in the margin on that, that could be much better than the existing model where someone's going in, they have to wait in an office, you have to employ an office manager and all this aspects. Like if you can have, let's say 20% of your business not have to go through the office and you have to hire all this overhead to run the office, like this could be revolutionary in time because you are lowering the costs for these medical plans. So that's Mahudet in Israel. How does all these different components, like I've talked about their business lines, I've talked about sources that could be revolutionary in time. How does all this translate into their financials? I'm talking about Amwell's financials. And here are some thoughts on revenue. The reality is at this point, the business model is primarily about providing a fleet of 5,000 telehealth workers. And that's their own telehealth workers. That's the Amwell Medical Group. And the Amwell Medical Group represents about 50% of their revenue. This is based on the first half of 2020 revenue. And another, 30% of their revenue is the health system and health plans, these two over here. And so that, 30% plus health system health plans, I talked about those, the Amwell Medical Group, you're talking about 90% of their revenue, those three pieces. Like you should have a pretty good understanding of what Amwell does. They do have these other parts, which is innovators. That's they're saying 5%. The Apple Heart Study, the fees they get from Apple, that goes into innovators bucket. Then they also have services and care points. Care points is effectively how do you make sure that all these hospitals have the right iPads or these special kiosks that Amwell helps design. Make sure you can effectively have nice Zoom calls or nice video, telehealth, in the hospitals or with the physicians. That's what the services and care points is primarily. But the challenge here is that I can see revenue, but you know, visits, seeing a doctor, a telehealth doctor, where your doctor is one of your main costs, that's going to be very different cost structure than setting up an app for a healthcare plan. So this is sort of tricky because they don't actually tell you the different margins of these segments, which is a little frustrating. But let's just say okay, let's just focus on their revenue. How are they doing in the era of COVID? Like telehealth, COVID, people are like, yes, this sounds good. And the only segment that's growing crazy fast is Amwell Medical Group. And I'm looking at each of these, like Amwell Health Systems, first half set 2020 versus first half 2019, up 32%. Like that's pretty good. Health Systems up 32%, pretty good. Now, we're in the middle of a pandemic where telehealth should be through the roof. 32% is like health plans up 11%. What? Like combined, this is like 20%. This is not good at all for a pandemic, I'm thinking. Innovators is down. Now, okay, I'm sure there's some flat fees and performance-based fees and milestones and so, okay, look, it's not that important, but this is really where their growth is. Like they're having exponential amount of telehealth visits that are utilizing their platform, and so that's where they're getting most of their money. Okay, so that's 200% plus growth for Amwell Medical Group. Um, I'm seeing this, and I'm looking at the I get the visits. Business is up a lot, 200% plus. But when I see only up 20% in health system and health plans, and that's over 30% of their revenue, and that should presumably be higher margin. you want to know what that makes me think about Amwell? It's a trap. That's what this makes me think. Like, I think that when I'm looking at Amwell, if I'm reading this right, I'm thinking you're going to capitalize on the COVID bump based on the number of visits. And your number of visits to your own telehealth workforce is going bananas, up 200% plus. You spin yourself as this incredible enabler, and you get this super rich valuation because you're like, hey, we are enabling telehealth in the medical industry. This is incredible stuff. And you get this great balance sheet because now you just raised hundreds of millions of dollars. So you got a rich balance sheet, you got a good story, it's at the right time. Like, yeah, I get it. Now's the time to strike. Like, you're able to post over 70% growth because the doctors you employ through Amwell Medical Group are getting a lot of business. But your core functions of health plans and health systems are only growing 20%. Like, this just doesn't smell right to me. It doesn't. I'm not. It rubs me the wrong way. It's a trap. That's what I think. But maybe I'm just being too skeptical. Like, maybe Daniel, you're too skeptical. Does this still have the opportunity to be 10x from here? And management thinks the opportunity is huge, enormous. Like, that's what I'm going to say going forward. Whenever it's like, here's revenue, here's the opportunity, it's huge, enormous. Where they're saying, just health plan and health system opportunity is $12 billion in the United States. This bothers me. Like, there's been a couple of things, in all honesty, about the Amwell filing that bothers me. This is one of them. Like, this segment is on path to generate less than $100 million this year. The partners they already cover, think about the insurance plans that they already work with, cover 80 million people already. This is out of a population of 300 million people. And keep in mind, this is not them talking about global opportunity. This is them talking about US opportunity. So 80 million people out of 330, 340 million in the US. So how are you going from less than 100 million to 12 billion on this? Like, that would require just crazy upselling of modules. And they're like, whoa, we have 40 different modules that we can upsell, like not only urgent care, we have lactation, we have got, behavioral health, which includes psychology, psychiatry. Like, I'm just thinking, like, and you're growing only 20% in the middle of a pandemic. You're telling me 12 billion? And you've got 1/3 of the population already, or 1/4 of the population already? Like, also, on the health plan side, they say that they've covered 50% of the commercially insured population. So I don't like, yeah, you can tell me from today to tomorrow the opportunity is just huge, enormous, but I don't get the 10x multiple. Like, I'm not seeing the growth rate I'd want to see for it. Just doesn't make sense to me. So I'm gonna be like, okay, management, like, that's what you want to believe in. I'd love to see some execution, but like, let's be real for a second. There clearly is a lot of opportunity for them. Like, some of the revolutionary things that I was talking about, like whether or not it's Google or Apple, like, that would be a game changer. If you said, hey, we're going to provide telehealth for the world, I think international could be a game changer, what they're trying to do. If you have different countries around the world say, hey, we're telehealth first, and you have to do everything online first, and then only at the very end you go to this lab, that might be a game changer. That might be a game changer for costs. So there definitely is opportunity, like huge, enormous opportunity. But am I really sold on them executing on it right now? Not when I'm seeing 20% growth in the middle of a pandemic, like 20% growth for their health plan and health systems, like that. That's not really confidence inspiring. And I'm thinking their largest segment, which is over 50% of their revenue, which is their surplus capacity of doctors for their telehealth. I'm thinking that isn't an unrivaled value proposition. Like, that doesn't strike me as like, oh yes, you must use their network of doctors. So some things irk me. What else about their financials? Another aspect that I already talked about is that they consolidate the financials, fine. But if you're going to have these really distinct segments like health plans and health systems versus a bunch of doctors that you have to pay that's out of your own network, like your margin profiles are going to be all over the place, and they don't share the economics of these different divisions. So that's frustrating, and maybe they'll rectify that in the future. But also, their gross margins, because of this different mix, ranges from like 35% to under 50%. Like, folks, you guys have seen me do some videos about some software companies here. Software companies can have margins from minimum 60% to as high as like 95%. So this is not software margins. This is a health plan, health system margins, 35 to 50%. Um, you know, it's it's priced. This shouldn't be priced like a software business, but is it? Like, let's talk about their valuation. And like, oh my gosh, it is priced like a software company. It's trading at 24 times sales. Like, as I look at it, and keep in mind, this is my value proposition to you, is that my loyal YouTube subscribers, if you go to the description of this video, I have a link below where you can play around with this sheet. That's my value proposition to you. You can change around these assumptions. Let's dig into these assumptions that pencil out your potential risk reward for this. So, like, they're growing super fast this year, primarily driven by Amwell Medical Group, which is growing bananas, over 200%. So consolidated, you're growing around 75%. So I pencil out somewhere between 70 and 80% this year on a revenue basis. So that gets from around 150 million to around 260 million in revenue. So 260 million versus $6.4 billion valuation. So this is a mid 20s price to sales. Like, so what sort of margins can you profile for this? Once again, like, hey, thanks for not providing that margin detail on a per segment basis. But let me say, like, hey, you're at a 50%, 40 to 50% gross margin. So maybe you can be at 12, maybe you can be at 20. Like, I'm not gonna, if you think I'm wrong on that, I welcome you to play around with the sheet and put in 30%, or 40% or whatever you think. But I'm looking at 35 to 50% margin, and I'm thinking I don't think they're going to be able to get 20% operating margins. So this I'm trying to do, like, what's an optimized operating margin profile. You slap on some sort of tax rate. That tax rate could go higher. I'm slapping on 25%. And this company, for a company that's growing 70% because of a COVID boom, is trading at a theoretical like 160 to 300 times earnings. Um, sorry, I couldn't help myself there. And then, like, what's the growth rate over the next 5 years? Like, I'm penciling out 15 to 35%. And that's because I'm thinking, like, hey, you're getting probably a one-time benefit from your Amwell Medical Group. Like, I don't think you're probably going to grow another 100% next year from your telehealth segment growing super fast. Because once again, every doctor in the world's going to be needing to do it right now. Like, so everyone's telehealthing up right now. Like, hey, if you're not set up with Zoom, the Zoom equivalent, we're going to set you up. And so I just don't see why you should pencil out a much higher range than 15 to 35%. Like, I welcome, someone to make the case. And believe me, if you strongly disagree, instead of leaving a nastygram, like, educate me, prove me why, tell me why in the commentary below. So 15 to 35 times, let's say you slap on a multiple of 15 times to 35 times. I'm trying to play around with this. Like, how much could you value this company? It's not going to be crazy high margins, because at this point it's mostly telehealth doctors that you're buying a business of. It's not something that's revolutionary. And my range of outcomes just sucks. In all honesty, like, this is a terrible risk reward. Like, I'm saying your upside is nothing. I offer you this, nothing. And your downside is 90%. Like, until I start seeing some of their revolutionary bets or efforts really start playing out, and maybe I start seeing some of these other segments put up some incredible growth. Like, if I saw systems and plans go from 20% average growth to like 50%, I'd say, okay, there's something potentially special going on. But when most of your growth is coming from a network of doctors that you provide that's surplus capacity for someone else's health insurance plan, like I'm not so sure. Uh so pretty lousy risk reward in my opinion. But if you want to see what I am buying, what are those potential multi-baggers that I think, could go up potentially hundreds or even thousands percent over time, go to unrivaledinvesting.com, click on journey. There's also exclusive content each week just for those that want to follow the journey. So, as I said before, just finding one multi-bagger could potentially change your life journey. So, if you'd like, go to unrivaledinvesting.com, follow my personal journey to find these multi-baggers for my own personal portfolio. If you enjoyed this video about Amwell, please make a point of subscribing. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much, and please hit that like button. Thanks.